Hello and welcome to MotorsportManager 3 Mobile with Aljoy Galcon. And in this final episode on the open wheel sprint, this is where I'm going to show you why our team is really dominant in this series. And I would say thank you so much for PlaysportGames for making this particular tier, because I played the PC version on the MotorsportManager and it only starts at tier 3, which is the European Racing Series, and it was a massive struggle really in the beginning, and even as I experienced it, and by the way this is my experience, your mileage may vary, but yeah, it was a lot of struggle, and even as I go into the 5th season I still couldn't get off from the worst car on the grid. I will play it someday if I actually understand the basics and how you're supposed to do it. I might think that there is a specific strategy that you need to do in order to go very far, or even going from the European Racing Series all the way into the World Motorsport Championship. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, then be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss out anything that I put on this channel. Everything is free, you don't need to pay, and by subscribing you make this channel grow and flourish even more, which makes me happy so I can create more contents for you to watch. So yeah, I've earlier decided to put some more sponsorship into the car and therefore making more money, and let's go to the Grand Prix itself. This is the final race on the open wheel sprint, the Monaco GP. And since our car didn't make it into the designated position to get the sponsorship money in the race previously, and by the way, if you want to check out the previous episode, then you can click the link at the top right of the screen. So yeah, sponsorship money is very important in this particular game, because your racing team might not be surviving very long if they didn't have sponsorship money. Because in my experience, getting sponsorship to instantly know your team is really important, because oh, that's actually really terrible. That is something I didn't expect. Out of all the number that the game could provide me, they choose 18. Just one slight level above my mechanic, and then that's basically it. So I have to run the second car without any kind of setup in Monaco, which is really bad. Especially in real life, the qualifying is actually more exciting than the race itself. So yeah, where was I earlier? Before that unbelievable disaster that I didn't expect. Oh yes, sponsorship money. So yeah, in my experience, getting sponsorship money is really important, because you are a brand new team and the world doesn't know what you can do about this racing team that you just created. So in my experience, it is really important to bring a lot of money, a lot of cash, especially coming from the sponsorship. And you use the money to actually expand the factory, and also make sure that you have some enough money to actually run the cars, because if you run the car but you didn't have a good result, which is in this particular game the open wheel sprint is actually really easy. I made it way easier than it actually is, but this tier is like really easy. You don't need a lot of brain work to actually dominate the series. Even if I choose a completely different series, which is the GT Racing Stars, that also have the same effect. Oh yes, there is one final thing that I should mention about this particular playthroughs, and that is the rule of this particular playthrough. So I might never say this before in the previous episodes, I might never say it even on the first episode, but essentially, if this racing team goes bankrupt, even if I have sold all the assets to the team to somewhere else and I still couldn't get enough money, then the playthrough is basically over. That's pretty much it. Although the game did have some mechanics if in case that my team for some reason goes bankrupt in the middle of this playthrough. So yeah, it is actually quite difficult to make your team go bankrupt. But obviously this is one situation that I really do not want to ever happen, certainly. So back to the qualifying results. We still have 4 minutes to go before the qualifying season ends, and look at the gap between the first driver and the second driver. Oh my god, that's really huge in this particular track. It's over half a second. And judging by the decrease of the requirements to get the sponsorship money in this particular qualifying, and it looks like both of our drivers actually managed to get that expectation. So Maulana here, he's in first position at the moment, whereas David, the second driver, is still in fourth place. So qualifying time, we still have 3.5 minutes left. Ideally, I do not want to send both of the cars straight away, simply because if I did that, and when the time the cars go back into the pit lane, I only have 30 seconds to actually do anything to the cars, and yeah, that's actually pretty much impossible to do. So now I'm going to send my second driver out for the qualifying session for the last time, and I'm going to wait for Maulana here to wait the timer until it goes to 2 minutes, and that's the time where he needs to get out of the pit lane. And that time is actually right now, because if Maulana is being sent out right now, by the time the timer runs at 2 minutes, he must be exited the pit lane. And let's see if I got the correct results. And well, it's not quite. If in fact he actually managed to go into the sector. Oh, I actually didn't realize it until now that the version of the open wheel sprint of the Monaco Grand Prix is actually using the Formula E version of the Monaco Grand Prix. At least, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first and second iteration of the Formula 1 E, if I'm not mistaken. So comment down below if I got that wrong. So yeah, 45 seconds to go, and it looks like our second driver David has managed to secure the second position, but Will Maulana, our first driver, will get a better time in the qualifying session as he comes through the line. And no, he actually didn't manage to improve his time, but he managed to get a purple sector in sector 2. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the qualifying session, and the front row will be locked by Karukone GP once again, just like in the last episode. But unlike in the last episode, so spoiler alert, I didn't manage to win and grab the first place to continue the streak of winning. So yeah, let's prove everyone that I could actually win in this Monaco Grand Prix for the very first time as a racing team instead of me representing my own nation. Anyway, strategy wise, I'm going to ask both of my drivers to go really hard, and I will cap the hyper soft tire because it is the best tire in this particular Grand Prix at the start of the Grand Prix itself. So yeah, anyway, 5 red lights for the last race in the open wheel sprint. And here we go, and let's see if we could actually grab a very dominant performance. And it looks like it, and Maulana and David both stormed out of the lead. Oh my god, look at the pace for our cars though. Anyway, where was I earlier? Oh yes, the racing strategy. Ideally, I want to keep the hyper soft tires, but in the middle of the race, I might have to switch into the ultra soft tires. And worst case scenario, it is going to be the super soft compound tires, because super soft compound tires is the worst tire in this particular race, but it also has the biggest quality in terms of durability compared to the hyper soft tires and also the ultra soft tires. So lap 1 is done, and looks like both of our cars is still maintaining first and second position, and look at the difference. It's already 2 seconds already between the second and the third driver. Oh my god. Oh sorry, got that, the first and the third driver. Oh my god, look at the speed of our car though. Oh my god, this is unbelievable. Either we made a really good setup and ended up with a very fast car, or Moana is showing us, the viewers, but also the entire audience in this particular race, just how dominant our car actually is. Now, 4 laps into the main event, I'm actually asking both of these drivers to run the engine power on the medium, because I do not want to destroy the fuel economy at the end of this race, because just like in real life, refueling is banned not only in this particular competition, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, also applies to every single seater competition in this game. And yeah, you can do actually change it, but I'll talk about it much more later. But anyway, 6 laps in, and it looks like David could not make the tire wear slower than I would like to think, so looks like I have to put her into the pit lane soon enough. And if that is the case, then I'll just have to look on what kind of tire that suits her the most. Also, I just realized something. Take a look at the gap between the first place and the 5th place. Oh my god, that's over 10 seconds in Monaco? That's unbelievable. I might think the reason why is these people who are really far behind are actually running the super soft and the ultra soft compound tires, so these guys will certainly run a bit longer compared to what I did here. And looks like the laps, and yeah, looks like I have to came up with the second plan of using the super soft tires, which is the worst tire in this particular race, but hey, it is the best in terms of durability. So yeah, let's see if the super soft tires can actually last until the end of the race itself. So in comes Maulana, and I've asked David to do another lap before she can goes in, because as I said in the previous episode, apparently that you cannot double stack your car for some reason. And you might think this rule only applies to the single seater, but no. The GT race as well as the endurance race also applies the same rule for some whatever reason. At least that's the thing that I managed to find out in my previous save files. And by the way, this is something that I've just realized when I actually record this video. When Maulana came out from the pit lane after the mandatory pit stop, he was, if I'm not mistaken, like 4.5 or even 5 seconds behind David. But when she's about to do the mandatory pit stop, the time has gone down to just 2 or even 2.5 seconds. So I guess that Maulana really tries to show everyone his driving skill and why he deserves to be on the next level of competition. So now the situation, Maulana is already in first place, and look at the gap, it's already 3 seconds between him and second place. And because he has done the pit stop, it is going to be really unfortunate news that the condition of the car is going worse and worse. I do not want to make another pit stop, so I have to pray that the condition of the car doesn't get any worse than this, and if it does indeed get worse, it didn't end up in the red. I really do hope it ends that way. While David's car is slightly better, but not that much better, it's at 44%, so yeah, even if I wanted to push these cars, I really couldn't, even if I wanted to. So yeah, now I'm going to speed up this part until I found something really interesting that is worth to talk about. Right, so it looks like Maulana's car has enough fuel for us to go until the finish line, so now I'm asking Maulana if I could run it in the medium power. And now take a look, the game even warns me that he has excessive amount of fuel for this race. And let's see if the conditions does get worse or not, because if it does, then it's actually a bad news for me. It looks like some of the drivers are putting up the hyper soft compound tires to catch me, but 40 seconds in Monaco? I don't think so, unless suddenly for some reason rain appeared. And in my experience playing this game, the Grand Prix of Monaco never ever rains. Oh my goodness, this is a terrible news. Moana's car is already at the red condition and we still have like 2 laps to go, so I do not want to end it up as a retirement for Moana, because it will be such a heartbreak to do so. And that's not even taken into account that Maulana actually did manage to overlap some of the cars here. But thankfully in this game you do not get any penalty if you somehow manage to cross the finish line with plenty of fuel, or even if you didn't have any kind of fuel left in the car. So yeah, last lap I'm just going to told Maulana to go at neutral pace and neutral engine power just to make sure that um, he actually managed to cross into the finish line. And let's see, looks like David is having some sort of huge battle to maintain the third position, or even if he can actually get into second place, that will be a really great performance for her. And I don't think that's to be the case. But anyway, Moana crossed the finish line to win the Monaco Grand Prix and as well as the open wheel sprint. And wow, take a look at that battle that rages on to claim the remaining podium spot. That must be a very intense battle. Too bad that I don't highlight that battle too much. So yeah, that's it. I'm finally won the very first championship in this particular managerial racing career. And with that, let's take a look at the classification for the final time. So yeah, we did manage to get first place, unbelievably. Well, if you actually watch the start of the race until the very end, we actually take control of this race in a complete dominating factor. Look at that, 5 podium and 4 wins with 179 points. So far ahead compared to the second place, which just barely reaching 90 points. So yeah, now let's take a look at the supply chain network and our expansion at the headquarters. So there is good news and bad news situation. So the good news is I've managed to go expand into the sole private airship. But the bad news is because there is no more race left, so that meant the expansion got delayed for like an entire season. So that meant I have to wait for an entire year just to actually finish the expansion bit. But yeah, if you take a look at the map, it goes around the world in a race team style. So I cannot expand to Europe at the moment because I start at China and there is no link between me and Europe at the moment. Anyway, headquarters is complete, and yup, $200,000 per race. This is absolutely necessary and really helps me in long terms in terms of the bonus dollars that I could get. However, right now I can't expand too much because my budget is pretty limited and the options, some of the options I meant, are way too much for my budget at the moment. So I might have to wait for an entire year before I decided to go there and expand that part, even though it will cost me like a lot and lots of money. But this telemetry department is something that I could actually buy. And this is going to be absolutely massive in terms of qualifying because now I can activate the third card instead of having only 2 options, which sometimes you will end up getting the settings wrong, and you have seen some examples in the previous episodes. For example, the one that I did in the Milan GP. So right now I'm improving Maulana's capability, but I don't know if David here could actually be improved upon. I don't think so. She's actually at the maximum level. Too bad that she's 19 and couldn't expand any further in terms of her skill. And also her contract is about to expire this year, so I might have to find a replacement for her. And now it's time to end the first season of our managerial career in MotorsportManager 3 Mobile. Now here's the confirmation, I've won the championship, and let's take a look at the final standing. So 6 wins and 4 podiums, what an incredible performance. It could be better if I got all 5 victories in my hand, but hey, you can't be perfect. And there it is, the Drivers' Champion in this year. And the Constructors, well, is in my hands since, well, I don't know, quite a long time actually. So $11 million I have. What an incredible boost in terms of the things that we could do in the future. So the driver of the season is actually David. He was expected to finish last but somehow ended up second. We have proven all the doubters that they were incredibly wrong. Oh yeah, here you can also see the team of the season as well as the driver of the season in not just the current competition that we entered, but also other competition as well. So Tronton are joining the next season. It is going to be a tough season if I decided to stay at the open wheel sprint. But because I've actually win the open wheel sprint, I can now choose the next difficulty, the next tier, which is going to be the European racing. I will at some point make a video about the endurance racing, and that's the ICEB. But because I just started this managerial career, I do not want to simply blow my budget, because the endurance race costs a lot of money. I will say endurance race in this particular series, in this particular game, costs much more compared to either GT or the Formula category. Well, technically the game calls it single seater, but if you understand the world of motorsport, Formula and single seater is actually quite a bit of same. You just have to take a look at what competition it is. Well, maybe except for IndyCar or car, if you actually understand motorsport since from the very beginning, especially in the 90s. Yeah, by the way, we accepted the promotion. And fun fact, even if you decided to go down a tier from tier 1 to let's say tier 2 or tier 3, the game still gives you money and still claim that you promote into that competition. Now it's the time for the voting process. So essentially, there is a rule that will be enacted in the next season, and we can choose to either vote against it or for yes for the rules, and also I can choose abstain. I'm going to choose abstain at the moment because it will provide me with plus 10 influence, and especially if you start at the very beginning, influence is something that is really important, especially if you want to find racing mechanics, racing engineers, and if you're actually brave enough, you can actually recruit racing drivers who are competing in 1 tiers or even 2 tiers above you. But be aware that you need a lot of influence. So yeah, now time for the driver negotiations, and this is also when a driver decided to retire from motor racing because he or she is way too old for this. Anyway, it looks like I must replace David for someone else, and let's take a look at the current transfer market, and especially I want to look at people who are currently in the free agent. You will notice the free agent if they didn't have any teams. Usually these drivers will work for you at a very cheap price. You can also filter out which drivers that are interested to work for you. This Wilson guy, he seems quite decent, especially with the kind of competition that we are going to face in the European Racing Series. And also he's got a good reputation within the sponsorship. So yeah, that's the reason I'm picking him. So now I'm going to make an offer for him, and let's see if I could actually convince him to join the team. I might at some point in the future make a video about how this thing works, but the short thing that you need to know is you need to match what the driver actually wanted. And these priorities, as you can see, is highlighted by the color green. But the brighter the green is, the more important it will be. And ooh, look at that, just barely scratching. So yeah, I'm sorry David, you are gone out of the team. I'm sorry. The contract has not been extended. And welcome Mr. Brian Wilson from Australia. Now let's take a look at what other expansions that we could take in our headquarters. And the one thing that I really do want to expand into is this one, the Logistic HQ. This will unlock another slot for my expansion in the world. And once that upgrade has been unlocked, I could use all 3 slots in the expansion slot for the world domination. Well, not exactly world domination yet, but it will be at some point. Now I'm using the influence, and hopefully I will get a better race engineers. This will become really important when I constructed new stuff such as the front wing, the rear wing, all that sort of stuff. Because let's be honest, my current race engineers, they are not very good at the moment. Ideally I wanted someone who can actually lead the team, And the first candidate, well, actually quite decent, and I might looking into replacing one of my racing engineers and replace it with him, but I will look for a better candidate, and hopefully I will find that better candidate. And now let's see if we actually find a better candidate within the next month or so. Oh yes, one very important thing that you have to remember, it is not just you who are searching for new drivers, other teams are looking for new drivers as well. Some teams replace their old drivers with a brand new one, and sometimes some drivers are just being fired. I would guess that they did not deliver the required performance. So yeah, and here's the next year's car, and I'm focusing on the chassis development because these drivers, they're not the best quality, especially in terms of tire wear and also fuel efficiency, because I'm competing in single seater where the regulation in single seaters in this game, if I'm not mistaken, the refueling factors are banned. Well, I could change them, but I have to register a rule change, and that will take another year or so. And speaking of replacing, oh my god, look at the second candidate. It is really good. And yeah, I'm actually interested with this guy, and yeah, Mr. Smolnar, I'm sorry, I find someone who's actually better than you. Anyway, the last time I checked about the race engineers and race mechanics, I was like the worst in the entire grid. I was 9th out of 10th place. So yeah, with this guy's addition, let's just hope that I will get a better ranking in the statistics. And now we are approaching the end of negotiations. This is where the entire dealing in motorsport, the transfer market, is done. And now it's time for the last tutorial in this game, which is dealing with suppliers. So basically, every time you start a brand new year in motorsport, you need to select which suppliers that you want to use. And you have to choose really carefully because you cannot change this decision until the end of the year, until a brand new season of motorsport. Currently, you can only choose the engine supplier, but you can also change the rule to allow, for example, advanced ERS. The ERS here means the Energy Recovery System, not the European Racing Series. But it will take me another season before I can request such a change. Anyway, now it's the time for the pre-season testing. Unfortunately, I cannot actually see the pre-season testing apart from the results, and let's take a look where we will be ended up with. So, looks like we are about in the mid-pack, I guess. I mean, being a brand new competitor in this competition, it is expected that I will have the worst car, but I guess my driver skill managed to carry that worst car into a position where it is much better than probably what everyone thought. And it looks like the tire wear and fuel efficiency, it is on the expected level. Well, unfortunately it is slightly below the expected, but hey, it is close enough. So let's see what bonuses that each driver have. And oh my god, Molana has plenty of them. Yeah, it is expected that the car will be the worst on the grid, but the driver is actually the second best. And looks like our engineers is in the middle of the pack in 5th place. Anyway, it's now time for the young driver program. Well, I do want to explain it, but the game here explained pretty much everything that I wanted to say. And it looks like the game is actually really generous at me because the game offers me a 90% discount when I created the first ever young driver program in my team. So yeah, I'm going to take that because it doesn't cost a lot. I might only open once at the moment because young driver program is not cheap. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it costs like 2 or 3 million US dollar. And that is for every season that you do. So yeah, now I'm choosing which are the best candidates in this list, and I have 3 options, and hopefully one of them will actually end up driving my car. And now here I go, European Racing Series. Oh, by the way, if you are wondering what will happen to the other 2 drivers if I decide not to hire them, well, the other team will bot them. What I mean by that is the fact that not only the teams from this competition can bot them, but also other racing teams from other competitions. And now I have to make so much components for my cars because my cars are actually the worst on the grid as based on the pre-season testing. And while I'm creating these brand new components for the car, I'm going to ask you something. Do you like actually watching the invitationals, the invitation event? If you like it, then I guess I should make a brand new video about the invitationals event in the future. But if you don't like them, I will simply skip it and just let you see the results if I actually win anything or not. Because the invitational event is the hardest part when I create this MotorsportManager videos, because in order to actually get decent results, I need to have a decent mechanics, and sometimes the game just doesn't give you one for a long time. So yeah, comment down below if I should create more episodes on the invitational event, or I should not create any more videos regarding to the invitational event, because as I said, it's very long and very time consuming to make. Anyway, that is it for this particular video. I'm not actually expecting a good results in this particular competition at first, because what do you expect? I was like to win races like immediately, not a chance, but I could make the team better, and buying these components in the market will bring me a better result. Well, assuming the drivers themselves don't crash into each other or into the tire barrier, because my cars are just not at that level yet. Anyway, the next race, it is going to be on Milan GP once again, but this time I'm competing at the European Racing Series. That race should be a must-watch because it will be our position in the next couple of races, or even until the end of the Racing Series itself this year. Anyway, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.